I have been married for almost 24 years. We have 2 daughters. One of them is with us today. That's Anna over there. Give Anna a wave. She's our 18-year-old. Who is back in Minnesota and well cared for. I will tell you that there have been times when I've seen him in battle with the Democrats in Minnesota, and as you well know, there are lots of them in Minnesota. Times where I've been wringing my hands and I've thought, there is no way. How is he going to possibly get through this particular battle? But he has dug in his heels, and he has never wavered from his conservative principles.
We've been traveling around. She had to go home for a few days for an important reason. We've got 2 teenage daughters. One is 18, as Anna is with us tonight, and the other is 15, Mara. They both like boys, and one of them drives, so they need parental supervision. And, Mary shuttles back and forth to make sure that they're on the road and keeping things within the guardrails. But I'm delighted to be with you tonight. I want to share just a few quick thoughts about the future of our country. I'm running for President of the United States because, like you, I love this country. But you know it's in trouble. And I've got the experience and the leadership and the results and the values and the ideas to lead it to a better place. We got a president who has a very different worldview. You know what it is. His view is to take stuff from the private economy and bring it into government. Our view is to take stuff from government and put it back in the private economy. We got a lot of work to do in that regard. I grew up in South St. Paul, Minnesota. It's a meatpacking town. Was. Back in the 90s. Look, many Republican candidates are going to come through a meeting like this, and they're going to say many of the same things. They're going to say, I'm for reducing spending, I'm for reducing taxes, I'm for getting government to live within its means, I'm for education that focuses on parents and choice, I'm for public employee compensation reform, I'm for doing health care reform the right way. They're going to say, therefore, being pro-life and pro-traditional marriage, and on down the list. That's very interesting. So you might listen to all that and say, well, what's the difference? These candidates all sound pretty similar. Well, I hope one of the questions that you ask is, have you done any of it? We took spending from historic highs to historic lows when I was governor. When I was governor, we cut taxes net over 8 years, even though we had 2 recessions. We were one of the first states in the nation to move from just seniority pay for teachers to offering performance pay for teachers. We did health care reform the right way under my watch. No individual mandates, no government takeovers. And by the way, if I'm president, I will guarantee you we will repeal Obamacare in its entirety. And more. The Cato Institute, which is one of the toughest graders of politicians in the country from a conservative and libertarian perspective, gave precisely 4 governors in the country an A. The other 3 aren't running for president. The other one is standing right here in front of you. The other 3 aren't even thinking about running for president. The most aggressive, most specific, boldest pro-job, pro-growth investment plan of any candidate in the race by far, including the president. I gave it at Barack Obama's former place of employment, the University of Chicago, the home of Milton Friedman. So on the business side, we go to a complete flat tax, one rate, 15% from 35%. And we clean out all the deductions, credits, exemptions, and the like, or as many of them as possible, on this theory. We want a flatter, simpler, fairer, more transparent, more pro-growth, more pro-investment, more pro-job, less cronyistic tax code. And we want businesses' ability to compete based on their ability to connect to customers, not their ability to connect to their congressman or some lobbyist to get some special deal. So 1 rate on businesses, 2 rates on individuals, 10 and 25%, but keeping the other deductions and credits in that system. We also eliminate all taxation on capital gains, interest, dividends, and the estate tax.
Hear, hear.
Well, with the exception possibly of Ambassador Huntsman, I believe I've got the most international experience of any candidate in the race. I've been to Iraq 5 times, been to Afghanistan 3 times. I've been all over the Middle East for lots of reasons, and all over the world for various reasons. I gave, again, the most specific set of proposals and plan of any candidate in the race on security and international affairs. It was at the Council of Foreign Relations in New York just a few weeks ago. The whole speech is on our website. But what it says about the Middle East is this. Number 1, the most important priority for the United States federal government is to make sure that our nation is secure and that our people are safe and secure. I'm not running for entertainer-in-chief. And you can see these comments come across the sky, and they're interesting for a while. But what we had in Barack Obama is somebody who came here and duped the Democrats in this state into thinking he was ready for the presidency of the United States. He was a college professor. He was a community organizer. And then he had a cup of coffee in the United States Senate, and he was there long enough before it got cold. And then we put him in the Oval Office and wonder why it didn't work. So number one, if the United States is going to expect, and Iowa should expect, whoever the next president is, better have run something large with a public component to it as an executive and driven it to results. I've had enough, and I hope you've had enough, of people who don't know what they're doing, and we put them in the Oval Office and then wonder why they can't function as the chief executive of the nation. I appointed for the first time in the nation, in the state's history, at least modern history, and maybe the whole history, a majority conservative Minnesota Supreme Court. And our rule was no ninnies on the Supreme Court. And the appointees included these: the former lawyer for Lawyers for Life in Minnesota as the Chief Justice, the former lawyer for the Republican Party in Minnesota, the former head or one of the leaders of the Federalist Society in Minnesota, somebody I know very well and know their value system and the like. But we transformed the court from one of the most liberal to one of the most conservative in the nation, and the people who watch this stuff closely said these are perhaps the best conservative state Supreme Court appointments in the nation, or words to that effect. Dodd-Frank is a joke, completely misses the mark. If you want to get at the root cause of the housing crisis, one of the main culprits in the whole deal was Congress politicizing the housing finance markets, yes, and putting political pressure on Fannie and Freddie to make loans that should have never been made. And guess who got a free pass in Dodd-Frank? Guess who didn't get touched in Dodd-Frank? Dodd-Frank. Yeah. Congress gave a complete pass to Fannie and Freddie, their little bobo playthings. And they should have been reformed first and foremost, not given a free pass. 2-year spending increase in my state was 21% for 40 years. Now, I took it from that all the way down to a little over 1% a year during my time as governor, and then we cut it in real terms for the first time in Minnesota history. And I had the first government shutdown in 150 years in my state. I set a record for vetoes in my state, single season, and one of the record holders overall. I used executive power to take more spending out of the budgets in Minnesota in my 8 years as governor than all the 142 years were the governors combined. So we had knockdown, drag-out, smash-face fights with the Democrats. I've never had a Republican legislature fully. Had a Republican House for a while, but mostly all Democrats. And we fought hard, and I won most of them. And I got some battle scars to prove. Create jobs. It should create an environment where entrepreneurs and businesses can grow in the private sector and create jobs. Politician's going to say I'm the pro-jobs politician, but you can't be pro-jobs and anti-business. That's like being pro-egg and anti-chicken. That doesn't work. So Obama says, I'm the pro-jobs president. Or the Democrats say, I'm for jobs. Well, how can you be for jobs if you spend all your days and nights, beating the tar out of the businesses? That doesn't work. But you should know that the Obama administration and the Treasury and the Federal Reserve have been devaluing the dollar. And you get paid in dollars. You have your 401k and your IRAs in dollars. Your pensions are denominated in dollars. Your assets are in dollars. So every time that they devalue the dollar, implicitly or explicitly, they're eroding your assets. They're eroding your quality of life. So we need to move back to a strong dollar policy. I would do these things in short order, and each one takes more time, but real quickly. Number one, the Federal Reserve should be audited. And they should have... Number two, they should not be a self-selecting little clique where their own little members on the board and their member banks pick their successor members. We should have public input and oversight as to who serves on that very powerful entity. I opposed Bernanke's appointment last time, and I sure wouldn't reappoint him next time. Yeah. And as to the dollar and the gold standard, I think we need to move back towards a tie to probably, or at least look at, a basket of commodities, but I think gold is too limited. I think we now have to look at, because of the world economic size and the supply of gold, we're going to have to broaden that to include some other precious metals or other baskets of commodities. I think it's worth considering tying it to something, but I think we're going to need more.